Hi, everyone. My name is Lorraine, and I have a very unusual phobia. I'm afraid of the ticking clock. Some people may find this fear funny, but in fact, it turns my life into a real nightmare. You may wonder how I got this phobia. It was triggered by a serious psychic trauma from which I was never able to recover. When I was a kid, my mother and I went to the bank to cash a check. I was in a good mood because my mom promised to buy me a toy. We almost made it through the line when robbers broke into the bank. I've never been so scared in my whole life. The armed men forced everyone to lie down on the floor and not to move. The criminals wanted their conditions to be fulfilled properly, so they set a large bomb in the middle of the hall. It was a box with a bundle of wires and a large clock that counted down the time to the explosion. I saw a bunch of bombs in cartoons and understood what would happen when the time was up. There was a deadly silence in the hall, and only the loud ticking was heard. I don't know how much time we spent lying on the floor and listening to that ticking, but it seemed to last forever. The noise of the clock seemed to be real thunder, and that terrified me. Then the police suddenly got inside the bank and seized the robbers. They defused the bomb, but the clockwork didn't stop ticking in my head right away. I had panic attacks every day, and even a long-term course of psychological recovery didn't help me cope with it. No one, even I couldn't guess what triggered those panic attacks. But one day, my parents noticed that I had impulsively broken the clock in my room and in the living room. They talked to me again and found out that I had a subconscious fear of ticking. We got rid of all the mechanical clocks in the house. Even my dad didn't put on his favorite wristwatch at home in order not to hurt me once again. At school, I had asked a bully classmate to secretly break the big clock at the entrance. He gladly did me a favor, and fortunately for me, they were soon replaced by new electronic clock faces. My parents saw how bad I felt, so they decided that our whole family should move to another city in order to protect me from the terrible memories. It even helped me because I managed to live without panic attacks for a year, and I finally became an ordinary person. I began to walk more, communicate a lot with my peers, and even made new friends. I didn't tell my new acquaintances about my phobia, so that there was no reason to feel sorry for me or make fun of me, because many people find it very funny. I was just an ordinary teenager to them. One day, a friend of mine offered to throw a small party and for me to stay the night. As soon as I stepped into her living room, I became numb at once because a large mechanical clock with a pendulum hanging on the wall. My friend noticed my strange look and asked what was wrong. I had to lie and say I was simply fascinated by its beauty. Thanks to the loud music and a jolly crowd, I easily coped with the panic, and by the end of the party, I was sure that I had finally gotten rid of my phobia forever. But when we went to bed, I heard the terrible sound in the absolute silence. Every tick of the clock turned me into a little frightened girl in the bank again, and the image of a bomb that could explode at any moment appeared in front of me. I don't remember the moment the fear took me over, and I started screaming and running around the room. Eventually, I crept under the bed and buried my head in my hands. My whole body was shivering, and my heart was about to jump out of my chest. My friend was really shocked and called an ambulance at once. Unfortunately, after this incident, she stopped being friends with me because she was afraid even to approach me since my behavior really scared her. But this wasn't even the worst thing. While I was under treatment, the rumor about my new breakdown was very quickly spread throughout the school, and after that, my life changed dramatically. When I returned to school, most of my classmates avoided communicating with me. Even my new friends didn't talk to me. It really hurt because I had tried to make new friends with the girls for so long. But in the end, my phobia ruined everything again. Some people avoided me and just hid my existence. Others, as expected, began to make fun of me. Every day was real torture because it was unbearably painful to hear all those nasty things about me. Sometimes I even skipped lessons so that they wouldn't humiliate me again. However, I found a way that helped suppress the stress a little. It was a preparation for the upcoming intellectual competition, which would be held in another school. It used to be our main rival. One had to have a lot of knowledge to participate in it. A month later, I was 100% ready for it, but I was still worried because because we would compete on the site of the competitors for the first time, and I knew nothing about it. Would there be a ticking clock? In this case, I would never wipe out disgrace for sure. Our team is prepared for the battle of wits in the assembly hall. After the first question was read out loud, the countdown began. My heart sank when I heard the ticking of the clock. The sound was so loud that fear started invading me. I skipped the answers to several questions, and then I said that I felt bad and quickly left the hall because it was more and more difficult to suppress my panic. I remember the subsequent events in bits and pieces, but they told me what my panic attack caused. I ran to the bathroom, locked up in there, and called the rescue service saying that there was a bomb on school grounds and it was about to explode. I was so scared that they believed me right away. In a few minutes, the police, EOD specialist, an ambulance, and a fire team were sent to the school. The school was immediately cordoned off, and they began to take everyone out carefully and quickly. The event held at the school was very large and significant, so there were a lot of people inside. As soon as the children heard about the bomb, panic began because everyone was trying to leave the building as soon as possible. The police struggled to control the panicking crowd, and EOD specialists tried to find the bomb, which of course wasn't there. I was hiding in the bathroom, listening to the ticking of the clock in my head. It was a lot of time to find me. I couldn't calm down even when help arrived. I kept saying stuff about the bomb and persuading them that it was about to explode. The policeman who was leading me to the exit realized that I was delusional. They constantly asked me about the bomb in order to find out where it was and whether it was true or not, but I could not answer since I was out of my mind due to the panic attack. I couldn't stand such pressure and I fainted. I was supposed to go to trial and be punished severely for the false alarm and panic on such a scale, but I ended up in the hospital instead. When I came around, my mother was sitting next to me crying, and my father was comforting her. There was a doctor standing next to me who told me that it would take a long time in the hospital to recover from the stress and try to get rid of the fear and panic attacks. They had already tried to relieve me of my phobia before with the help of continuous consultations in the psychologist's office, but now I had to undergo serious treatment. I was under constant supervision of doctors and took various meds for several long months. The worst thing was the clock test, which had to be done occasionally to find out my reaction. The clock was put in front of me for a short period of time, and they watched the manifestation of panic. Fortunately, by the end of the treatment, the test delivered a positive result. The sound of the ticking clock still made me extremely uncomfortable, but the panic attacks were no longer observed, and I was extremely happy about that. The doctor also advised me to go to another school in order to avoid stress, but I didn't follow his advice. I didn't want to go to another school to start all over again. Moreover, I hoped that many people had already forgotten about the bomb incident, but my hopes were in vain. They called me crazy every single day, even though my mom started having problems with the school board. The parents of some of the children thought that I was dangerous to public safety and I should go to a special school. Mom tried to protect me, but I realized that there was nothing to be done about it. I was labeled crazy, and no one could change that. Besides, due to stress and long-term treatment, I failed the annual control test. It really upset me because I used to do so well in school. Now I couldn't even get the minimum. This meant that I had to take a grade over, which was a real shock to me. But I didn't want to go to the old school anymore because they wouldn't leave me alone there for sure. I dropped out of school and asked my parents to transfer me to homeschooling in order not to trigger panic attacks once again and to not suffer from bullying. Of course they agreed. That's why the next school year will be the beginning of my new life. Following the advice of the doctor, my parents decided that it would be better for me to avoid the school and house to secure me against terrible memories.